do yesterday.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, exactly.
So now,
Good motivation.
yeah. So I guess I'm just gonna sit out here.
Yeah.
And
Okay, I would like to call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
Do you want to do roll call? Sure, just reading out the names. All right. First up is Chris Diana.
Here.
Second is Robert Freeman. Excellent. Patricia Jones.
Here.
Ann Silvis.
Here.
And finally, we have Deshaun Williams.
Present.
Awesome.
Thank you. We have quorum, so the meeting is called to order. The first item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of our previous meeting, which was June 25th. And the minutes for that meeting were provided in the packet and on the website. So is there a motion regarding the minutes from our previous meeting?
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Patty. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Deshaun. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion about approval of the minutes from June 25th? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of our regular meeting from June 25th, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and we have approval of the minutes from June 25th. Are there any additions to our agenda for this evening?
No additions tonight.
No additions? Is there any public input provided either through email or in person?
There's not.
None, okay. That takes us to presentations, including the Youth Services Grant Accomplishment Report. So it looks like Nick is going to provide us with the Youth Services Grant Fiscal Year 23-24 Accomplishment Report.
Trying to do,
Hey, good evening, everyone. We are here to talk about the accomplishments from the past program year for our Youth Services Grant Program. My name's Nick Olson. I'm the Community Development Coordinator for the City of Urbana Grants Management Division. I'm here tonight with my colleague Cameron Messmer, who's the Community Development Specialist, and the Division Manager, Braden Belcher, is also here with us this evening. As you're probably aware, the Youth Services Grant is a program that awards funds to different organizations throughout the community who provide services to organizations that provide health, wellness, and opportunity services for local youth. In the past program year, the Youth Services Grant provided funding to 13 organizations and 17 programs throughout those organizations. I do have to note that 2 organizations that were awarded funding and 2 programs did not end up drawing down funds. So out of the total 17 programs, 15 actually happened. We unfortunately don't have the time to get into the specifics of what every organization does this evening, but just to provide a general overview, when organizations apply for funding, they can indicate what service category their services fall under. So we totaled those up for all the organizations that received funding, and we have that layout here, where you can see that most programs have something to do with violence prevention and education, and then there are a handful of programs providing more specialized services such as healthcare and job training. But these do represent all the eligible service categories. So one thing to note here is that there are at least some organizations in each of the eligible service categories. In terms of where the funding came from for this past program year, the city received a $200,000 grant from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. This was supplemented with $75,000 in city general funds and $25,000 in community development block grant funds. One of the nice things about having multiple funding streams is certain types of funding pair better with different types of services and reporting requirements. So it's nice to have a few different sources so that we can match them to what different organizations are doing. And the funding layout for this current program year has changed a bit. As far as how programs were drawn down, most organizations were successful in drawing down all or nearly all of their funds. It was really just a handful of cases where, due to some unforeseen organizational capacity issues or other circumstances, that resulted in a handful of cases where programs were not or were only partially drawn down. Next, we'll move into accomplishments for grantees, and Cameron is going to talk about the numbers we've got here on this slide.
Put all my practice into the other type of mic. All right. Hello, so my name's Cameron again. I'm with the Grants Division here. This slide and the next one are gonna go over the kind of the numbers of the youth that we assisted. So this is gonna talk about the specific unduplicated numbers that for every program combined for each quarter, which is a great way to kind of see, which individuals were assisted by the program. But the next slide here that we're gonna show you gives you kind of the total. So people who would kind of be coming to multiple programs and being assisted multiple times, which kind of depending on the program that's being run is really important. If you think of something like any food-related programs, lunches or breakfast, a kid isn't going to come just once, they're going to come multiple times. So we want to make sure that we're tracking both of those numbers to see the kind of difference between them. It's about twice as many. If we compare, we can jump back here quick. So if we see at the top here, we have 250, 520, 450, and 450, and then we jump to the next ones, and it's almost exactly double right across, which is really awesome to kind of have that comparison there. And I think Nick is going to go into some demographics for us here, and also some future information data tracking that we're doing coming up.
And a really quick note with these charts is we did pull one program's accomplishments out of these numbers that are reported. That was the Public Health District's Farm to School program, which is a really awesome program, but they're kind of unique in that they operate really embedded in the Urbana School District, which gives them some really huge accomplishment numbers, which is awesome. But also, as we were putting these numbers together, we found it kind of skews or swallows up whatever else you put it with. So we thought it made sense to pull that out, and we'll talk about that separately in a little bit. So in terms of the demographics of who our programs are serving, we have some charts here. Quick note on these. Due to the nature of some program services, for example, programs that offer more assembly-style services, not all of our grantees are able to collect demographic information. Most grantees are able to provide that to us if they have a more formalized client intake process. So this is just presented with the caveat that if organizations were able to provide us that data, that's what's being presented here. So hopefully you can see from these charts that our grantees are doing a pretty good job of reaching some of our target populations in terms of minority groups, as well as youth from low-income households. So that's been great to see. And then we also have the Public Health District numbers here that I mentioned we pulled out. It's an interesting program. They provide a variety of services ranging from curriculum support in the Urbana School District related to agriculture and nutrition, as well as programs like school gardening areas. So the accomplishment numbers you see here are generally reflective of the classrooms and schools that they're working with at any given point. So that's a quick overview of some of the accomplishments of last year's youth services programming. Hopefully you can see that these programs really are having a pretty big impact. In any given quarter, we're serving several hundred to over 1,000 youth. Our programs are generally doing a pretty good job of reaching the target populations that we want to be reaching with services. We did run into a few things. This is the first year that we've presented an end-of-year report on the youth services program. So we ran into certain things, like we realized we have a pretty good sense from quarter to quarter what the total number of youth being served is, but we currently haven't been distinguishing who's being newly served across quarters, so we didn't really have a way to get a total annual number. So we're going to be introducing some new elements to our reporting forms to kind of pull out newly served numbers, so at the end of the year we can have an annual total number. And then generally, our grantees performed very well in terms of both service numbers and drawing down funds. We did run into some issues where, due to some organizational capacity things that we didn't foresee, funds weren't drawn down. We try to screen for that as much as possible when we're reviewing applications. That said, we know things do come up, so we just want to keep thinking about ways that we can help organizations through those kinds of circumstances. And then also looking forward, I wanted to provide a quick reminder about some of the organizations that are receiving funding in this current program year. So we look forward to another year of seeing all the great work that the organizations who receive assistance through this program are doing. So that's all we have for this evening, but we're happy to take any questions.
One question is there any way that you can pull out the demographics of where the youth are located that participating in the program versus Champaign, Rantoul, Champaign County? It's just an interesting number that I'm finding here in CU area is that necessarily the kids are not from CU. They're from like Homer, St. Joe, other places.
So on our reporting forms, we do ask organizations to distinguish Urbana youth served. So we do have a pretty good sense that the numbers we're reporting are generally reflective of Urbana youth being served. Again, there may be some exceptions for organizations that have more assembly style programming where they can't necessarily check to see where everybody's coming from. But generally, we are asking organizations to pull out and report Urbana-specific populations.
I know for me, like next year, you're looking and reflecting, that will be important for me as far as making decisions. And then finally, I'd like to thank you for really focusing in on Urbana. I'm really, with the youth grantees, I really think that's the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Nick, I'm thinking about your description of how people were counted. So if someone showed up, if a kid showed up to a program and maybe that program could also have provided meals or snacks or whatever, and I'm not sure that's in here, but then you wouldn't count that just as one person, you would count it as like one served program or something, right?
So going back to some of the charts here, so we ask grantees to provide both a total served number, which would be this chart here with the higher numbers, and that can reflect circumstances where if an organization is providing services to the same individual at multiple times throughout a quarter, that would be reflected here. And then here we also request that organizations provide us an unduplicated total, which this should generally just be reflective of one individual, regardless of how many times they were there that quarter.
Just to tag on to that, in regards to Reverend's question, these are the numbers taken specifically for Urbana residents as well. So we do have a more overall total that would include kids from different districts, but we chose to focus on the ones for us here in Urbana.
Yeah, if they're being funded, I would like to see the total picture. That makes sense?
Yeah, I would think that there's my experience, when you're first starting something like this, it's impossible to keep too much data and look at it too many ways. It's a lot easier to simplify down the road than to go back and say, I wish we knew what this was. So for instance, in the counts, it would be very good to know kind of what the average use per participant was. So is it a one-time use? Are they repeat? And looking at the different programs, are people using that same program multiple times, or is everybody just kind of in and out? And the same thing would be true if you have the data to be able to look across programs. How many people are utilizing multiple programs under the same umbrella versus just one? And I know that's a lot of record keeping and kind of tedious at the beginning, but it's always been my experience that you don't regret it if you're trying to figure something out afterwards. You know.
Those are great
At some point,
suggestions.
there
Thank you.
probably will be more programs than there is funding and funding capability, so you do have to have some sort of a yardstick measurement of who's being most effective with those dollars at some point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Any other questions about the youth services report?
I'll just say that I did get to attend the Steam Genius Hip Hop Express Urbana Loving You tour that was hosted at the Urbana. Which school was it? One of the elementary schools with DJ Silky. So I wish that I had that when I was in elementary school to learn how to be a DJ. So doing a lot of great work, and we're very happy to be partnering with these organizations. And also, so the funding for this year, 23-24, was $300,000, and City Council in this current year also committed $300,000 as well. So we're able to keep the funding consistent and continue to serve the same number of organizations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good report. Okay, that takes us to the staff report. Braden, are you going to do that?
Yeah, I'll get it started. So just real quick at the beginning, I'll say that I had the opportunity to attend the Midwest Community Development Institute training in Springfield with wonderful Ann Silvis, who was leading the year 1 training. So it was a great opportunity to learn about different community development and economic development initiatives that communities throughout Illinois are initiating. A lot of great ideas, a lot of passion, and I'm excited to be bringing those back to Urbana. And thank you, Ann, for your wonderful leadership. So now we have a couple updates about upcoming public input opportunities, and I'll pass that over to Nick.
Sure. So we are currently in the process of drafting the Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, or CAPER, for the fiscal year 23-24 program year. This is the report that we submit to HUD, where we tell them, how we've been spending our home and CDBG allocations. So we're just in the process of double-checking our accomplishment numbers and drafting the narratives for the report. And we will be opening a public comment period where folks in the community can also give us feedback on how our programs have been performing. That will take place from September 12th through September 26th. We also plan on holding a public hearing concurrent with the September Community Development Commission meeting on September 24th. And then we will have the performance report submitted to HUD by September 28th. And then something else we're working on is also the 2025-2029 consolidated plan. This is the 5-year planning framework for our use of HUD funds, which we are currently in the final year of the 2020 through 2024 consolidated plan framework. So we're getting started on doing our needs assessment and analysis and outreach, and we're going to have a number of public hearings throughout that process. So this will be one that we're holding earlier on in the process, and we'll be doing that concurrently with the CAPER public hearing, so we can incorporate the feedback that we're getting on our past performance into how we're drafting our upcoming plan.
Any questions on the staff report?
I want to say it's a brilliant idea to do both those things at the same time. That's good.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that'll help people kind of know the difference between them and also provide input very efficiently. So I think that's a great idea. Okay, that takes us to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business to come before the commission this evening?
No.
No. New business. Looks like we have several items of new business. And we have information on that in our packet.
Yes, so the first item under new business is a loan modification request for 907 East Park Street in Urbana. So I'll just provide a little bit of context about this. So in May 1999, the Grants Division completed a whole house rehabilitation project at 907 East Park Street in Urbana. And as a result of that project, there was a deferred payment loan executed on the property. And as of today, there is a remaining balance of $12,500 as a result of that project. The original borrower who had the work done was low income and could not afford to make payments on that loan, and the original borrower is now deceased. At that time, the estate was transferred to Edward Sexton, who is now in the process of selling the property. And Mr. Sexton is actually here tonight, so if there are any questions about the details of this, he is prepared to answer those questions. So the reason this is before the commission is that there's a condition of the original mortgage that was executed that allows the Community Development Commission to forgive a portion of the loan upon the sale of the property, not to exceed the difference between the outstanding debt, so $12,500, and the net proceeds of the sale. Mr. Sexton has requested that the commission forgive a portion of the outstanding loan per the conditions of the mortgage upon the sale of the property. So we've been through similar situations before. If a portion of, whatever portion, if it's to be forgiven, that, that would not be returned to the city as program income. And that is within the commission's authority to forgive a portion of the loan. So, however, there wouldn't be any impacts on any of our programs or services as a result of that. So we're recommending that a portion of that outstanding balance be forgiven upon sale of the property per the terms of the original loan document. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions. And again, Mr. Sexton is here to provide any more detail that you might need or answer any of your questions.
Could you remind me when have we done these kinds of things before, and what do we usually do?
We have, I believe in 2022, the commission, there was a similar situation where a borrower had passed away and the estate was transferred to the daughter. So that is something, it comes up once every couple of years, so not that regularly. We don't anymore offer this type of program. So this is not something that we're currently doing in terms of, we don't have the whole house rehabilitation program anymore. So this is, we're not currently executing deferred payment loans for this type of work. It was something that was pretty common in the 90s and early 2000s as part of our whole house rehabilitation program. And that program, the purpose of it was to get homes up to code, especially very low income housing that had fallen into disrepair, and to help low income homeowners be able to stay in their home. So that was the intention of the program, but it's not a program that we currently offer. So these things do come up every once in a while.
Yeah. Hey, Breed.
Yeah.
This was brought up before, and we asked that you would give us a detailed, not a rehashing of what you're proposing, but really talking about the $12,500 going to a person that is not low income, and how are those funds being dispersed?
Sure.
Now, if you want me to make a motion I'll make a motion. It may not be a happy motion, but I'll make a motion. But can you explain why it's coming before us without that explanation?
So just to clarify, the one that I think you're referring to, you had requested more information, and I had followed. This is a different one.
Oh, it's a different one?
They never got back to me. I attempted to communicate with them, and I put those questions to them, and they never followed up with me. So that one, until they get back to me with the information that I have requested, I'm not going to move forward with it. So this is actually a different situation. So
Okay.
thank you for clarifying
And what's the
that.
difference between the two? What is the difference? Is the deceased, the person who originally had it was deceased, correct?
So in that previous case, it was
No, I'm
still
talking
the
about this
original.
case here.
Oh,
This case here, the person is deceased,
that is correct.
and it was transferred to another person, relative, if I am correct?
To Mr. Sexton, who is here with us tonight.
Who is Mr. Sexton?
He's in the audience. So he's the current owner because the estate was passed to him upon the death of the borrower,
Okay.
the original borrower.
So then, part of the estate went to him.
Correct.
And so now he's trying to get that remediated
Correct.
Because it's part of the estate, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. I so move.
It was, we might just, I did have one question on it.
Okay, no
if we
problem.
could. Because actually, Ann and I were around here when this one was granted, which is, says bad things about both of us, I think. The original purpose of those whole home rehabs, as you say, were to help people have quality homes that they could and would stay in. So a lot of the prohibitions that were built in that were to keep people from rehabbing a house to sell. Purpose was to have them rehab a house to live in, not rehab a house to flip. And after 25 years, it would seem like that mission was accomplished, where it was lived in for a good long time. My only question would be, it always comes down to the numbers on these. What is the balance of the mortgage or the balance of payoff on it? That's the one number that's missing.
The balance of the payoff on,
The mortgage.
Yeah, it doesn't give us any inclination what that net proceeds is going to be.
and if you could, there's a microphone, if you would be able to provide maybe more context on that.
Paul inherited that house from his parents when his parents died, so there was no mortgage on it.
Okay.
Okay.
But Paul also lived on $964 a month. So he wasn't going to pay for a whole lot of things. In fact, if you guys have been around forever, you've probably seen Paul years ago. He rode a bicycle everywhere, usually with fishing poles sticking on it. Has lived on Park Street all his life. In fact, all the way up till a month before he died, he was in the hospital. But, so there was never a mortgage. In fact, I just found out about this lien in March, and Paul died in December of 2021. I just found out about this lien because I was working with a young man to sell it to him, and his mother lives across the street from 907. So it's going to go to somebody here in the community, you know. Like I said, I didn't know that was there, and Paul was a heavy smoker too. I spent several months cleaning the house and painting it. So I've got quite a bit of sweat equity into it also, for just cleaning it up and remodeling a lot of things in it.
Okay.
Excuse
So
me.
you would assume then that if you sell it somewhere near the sale price of 50,000, that less costs and fees, that will be also somewhere near the net figure
Yeah.
on it also.
It's somewhere near that, and in fact, I would have probably priced it higher had I known that this debt was out there. I was not looking to make money off this. I didn't take care of Paul for 25 years to earn a penny. I wasn't related to him, but he lived in the neighborhood and needed some help. So that's what I did.
Are you the POA?
Yes.
You're the POA?
Yes.
Okay, all right. For the estate, correct?
I'm sorry.
You do a POA for the estate?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for providing that additional information. And Chris, I'm glad we had this conversation with the last one too. That program was designed to enable people to stay in their homes. Their homes could be up to code, and they would continue to pay property taxes and continue to keep the neighborhood vibrant and livable. And so I think that this is a separate issue other than, whether that, I think that program served its purpose. So I think what we need is a motion.
I already made the motion.
And what was your motion?
Motion to approve the recommendation from staff.
So would it be number one, to forgive
Number
a
one.
portion? Okay. So we have a motion to forgive a portion of the outstanding loan, and the motion, does that include the number of the
12,500.
12,500? Okay, so we have a motion to forgive a portion of the outstanding loan, or the outstanding loan, which is $12,500 upon the sale of the property. Is there a second?
Second.
Deshawn has a second. Any further discussion?
Just to clarify, so the
Yes.
staff recommended forgiving up to 10,000, but you want to, but the motion is to forgive the entire amount of 12,500.
That's what yes, that's what I recommended.
Okay.
So if you want to modify it, you can, but
And further discussion, Braden, can you give us the
Thank you.
rationale for your total of your suggestion of the 10,000?
Well, it was because of it wasn't clear what the net proceeds were going to be. So the only requirement in the mortgage document is that, and this is the actual language, is that the amount forgiven cannot exceed the difference between the outstanding debt and the net proceeds. If there are no net proceeds based on the situation, then that's not relevant and you could forgive the entire amount. And just also another point of detail is the original amount was $15,000, but if they stay in the property for a certain number of years, it got reduced to $12,500. So he fulfilled that because he lived in the home, his whole, for the rest of his life. So the remaining amount is that $12,500. And again, because we're not dealing with net proceeds in this situation, you would have the ability to forgive the $12,500 if you want to.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Was there any, just for my clarification, because now I don't remember back that far, were these loans tied specifically to properties or to the individuals who were in the properties? Because this loan has obviously been passed along a couple of times.
And that's in the loan document. It specifies that in the event of the borrower
Stays with the property,
being
right?
deceased, it does,
Okay,
correct.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Any further discussion? Any questions? Are we ready to vote on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the motion passes. So we will choose option one, forgiving a portion of the, or forgiving the $12,500 upon sale of the property. Do you need a roll call and vote on that?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I'd like to
Okay.
thank Mr. Sexton for caring for Paul for
Thank
so
you.
many
Yeah.
years.
we're taking care of Paul. Thank you. Appreciate that. Need more men like you. Yeah, it is. We appreciate it.
And thank you for finding a buyer who's going to stay in the neighborhood and appreciate the home and live there.
Well, and I told Breeden, I lived exactly 2 blocks. I lived at 707. I moved in there. That's the only reason I actually sold the 707 property.
Thank you again. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening.
No, I'll follow up with you. You're good. Thank you.
Yep, take care.
Okay, that takes us to item 2, under new business, the Citizen Participation Plan Amendment. And Braden, do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, Nick will walk through that.
Okay.
Yep, so as we've discussed a bit already this evening, this is a time of year where we're preparing various plans and reports for HUD. These all come with public comment and noticing requirements. So as we're putting those together, we refer back to our citizen participation plan, but then we also want to be looking at what the federal code requires. And during this process, we found a few instances where our code was not up to date or was kind of vague with respect to what the federal requirements are. So we just wanted to make a few amendments to the citizen participation plan to make sure that we're, spelling it out in line with the federal requirements. So a few specific changes that we've made. HUD requirements still require noticing in a local newspaper. So we've made sure to spell that out for any public hearings or comment periods related to the Consolidated Plan, Annual Action Plan, or CAPER. We had also, we specified that we needed to have public hearings for those plans and reports, but we didn't specify when we needed to be noticing those public comment periods, so we wanted to be clear about that. And then we've included some additional information in line with the federal regulations about what kinds of information needs to be included in those notices that get published. So we have included a draft of the citizen participation plan with the suggested language highlighted in red text. That starts on page 10 of the packet, but that's a general overview of the changes we're proposing. And the options for the CDC Commission are to either approve the amendment to the citizen participation plan as written or to approve the amendment with any other suggested changes.
One thing I'll add, thank you, Nick. So the citizen participation plan is important for us as staff because it, spells out what we need to do to ensure that our public input process is thorough and accessible. But it is also a document for the public to spell out to them, what opportunities they have to, review our materials, what opportunities they have to make comment. And that's really important as well because, as you all know, with our HUD funding, we're really guided by what the community is telling us, or we should be guided by what the community is telling us they need. And this is really the avenue that we have to make sure we're getting that feedback, that information. So we were, as Nick said, trying to, yes, make sure we're more in line with HUD regulations, but also helping kind of clarify and make it more accessible to the public, what the opportunities are, what the process looks like. So we're glad to have made some of those changes.
Love the transparency, thank you.
Do you have any comment on the word citizen versus the word resident? Because citizen suggests citizen of what jurisdiction, or maybe some people live here who aren't citizens, or...
I completely understand and would tend to agree with that. The term citizen participation plan is HUD's term that they use for this document. So we're maybe a little bit constrained, but I would agree and
I think
understand.
in our internal communication, we tend to use more inclusive language.
Correct. And I'll just clarify for anyone who might be watching or listening, anyone who lives in Urbana is more than welcome and encouraged to provide comment. You don't need to be a citizen. We welcome any voice and any input.
I appreciate the red text. It really helps to see the changes, and in my review, I agree with all their changes. It's very clear. It's clear timelines, clear list of included information. So thank you. I think it looks great.
Is there a motion?
I would move to approve the amendment to the citizen participation plan as written.
Is there a second? Thank you, Patty. Is there a second? Thank you, Chris. There's a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion about it? Questions, comments?
I'll make one other comment. If any member of the public would ever like to review the citizen participation plan, obviously there's a copy available in the community development department, but also it's on our website under the grants management division. So actually all of our reports and documents are there and we keep them updated. So again, if anyone is curious or would like to read through it, it's available there.
Good to know. Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. We have a motion and a second on the table, so all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So the ayes have it, and the motion is approved, and we recommend approval of amendment to the citizen participation plan as written. Is there any other business to come before the commission this evening?
No, we have no further business.
So having exhausted our agenda, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you
you all.
all.
Thanks for coming.
Stay out of trouble. Hey, good job, you all. I'm impressed with you guys. I tell you, you know, I really am. I tell you. If I have to show my appreciation in another way. Amen.